walking you through this webinar today. So that is the first person you see on there, Chloe Nunez. She is our year-round planning intern. She is based in the Chicago office. Myself, Rosa Ortiz from Enterprise Community Partners. I am the Senior Program Director for Chicago. And next is Diane Westcott. She is from Enterprise Community Partners, Grant Specialist, and she is based out of Columbia. So we want to thank you for joining us. I'll do a quick overview of what we will be going through today. And the first one is really we wanted to give you a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. You had a chance to learn a little bit about who's on the phone from Enterprise. We may not get a chance to hear from everyone that's on the phone. We do expect that there will be more people that will listen in to the webinar, and that's why this webinar is being recorded. So it'll be available for you and others to listen to at a later point as well. We will also go over the purpose of the webinar, the Section 4 grants program and application process, as well as our core values for the Chicago market and programmatic priorities. We'll follow up with a timeline and reminders, and then we will give everyone the opportunity to ask questions as well. That being said, I want to make sure that we have the opportunity to answer questions for you, and the best way to do that is that on the webinar screen, you should have a Q&A section at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you have any questions throughout, feel free to put them in that box, and that'll help us all sort of track the questions that you have, and we will address them towards the end of the webinar. But we want to make sure you don't forget the questions, so we do encourage you to ask the questions throughout the webinar. Put them in that little area where you can write down your question, and that'll help everyone sort of keep up with the questions that you might have. So that being said, I want to provide a quick overview of Enterprise Community Partners. Enterprise Community Partners is here to create opportunity for low and moderate income people through affordable housing and diverse, thriving communities. So that really is sort of the core of the work that we do. We are a national nonprofit organization. We have 11 different markets, and our footprint is really the entire country. We focus on the cities in terms of that's what we call our markets. But then we also have a Native American and rural area specialties. So there are a wide spread of different programs, capital, and policy solutions that we implement throughout the country. So that's really our core: programs, policy, and capital. Our Chicago market has been around for 10 years, and we've had the opportunity to work with many of you. We're excited to welcome others whose first time it is to apply for our grants. So welcome to those of you that are new. And for those that have worked with us before, obviously we're excited that we have the opportunity to engage through our grants programs now. Again, a little bit of our goals for this webinar is to make sure that you have all the information that's available for you. We're here to answer questions and to just give a little bit of deeper understanding of the Chicago market and what we're looking for in this grant opportunity. Diane will share a little bit more in a few minutes about the more extensive webinar that was recently done for our national team. And that webinar will also be available shortly for you to listen to. So today's conversation is a supplement of that presentation, and it really just focuses on the work that we are focusing on for the Chicago market. So that being said, again, welcome everyone. I am now going to turn it over to Diane Westcott, who's going to give you just a great overview of what we are doing in terms of our grants and some of the logistics for Section 4. Again, for those of you that are new, this is hopefully really helpful. And for those of you that have worked with us before, our former grantees, we hope that it is a good reminder for you.
Thanks, Rosa. As Rosa mentioned, my name is Diane Westcott, and I'm the grant specialist for Enterprise's Chicago market area. And I'm happy to say that I've worked with a good amount of you folks that are on the call today in my administrative role. And thanks so much for making the time to come to this session today. As Rosa mentioned, on Tuesday, first some housekeeping. On Tuesday, we held a national webinar on the letters of interest application process for this Section 4 funding opportunity. And during that 1-hour session, we presented information on the LOI components, the scoring criteria, the applicant eligibility requirements. We also touched upon eligible costs and activities, and we reviewed important dates. So later this morning, we will be posting the recording to our Enterprise Grants webpage, and you'll see the URL address throughout this presentation. And we're also going to post a link so that you can download the presentation slides with all the hyperlinks from Tuesday's webinar. So also, like last year, all the application information, the documents, online resources, the application portal, essentially everything can be found on our grants webpage. So all those important dates and deadlines are also on page 1 of the LOI, which hopefully many of you have been able to look at already. So this federal funding opportunity is available through HUD's Section 4 Capacity Building Program. It's open only to nonprofits, CDCs, and CHODOs to carry out community development and affordable housing activities for the benefits of households of low income, which for the purposes of this Section 4 program is defined as 80% average median income or below. And a household can be a single person, a group of people living together, or any persons living in a housing unit. So Enterprise is accepting online applications from any location within the United States. And your organization will apply to either one of the Enterprise's 11 markets, most likely the Chicago market, since that's what this webinar is about, or you can apply under the national geography if your proposed activities will take place outside of the Chicago market's defined geographic area. And that area definition is shown here, and also located in the Chicago Supplement, which is attachment 2, page 19 of the LOI. Please note that these Section 4 funds are awarded on a cost reimbursement basis. Grantees are required to incur costs before Enterprise can release any grant funds to reimburse those costs. So according to HUD regulations, we can't provide funds up front. So Enterprise has identified 5 program areas that align with its overarching programs, and these are housing stability, organizational capacity building, equitable climate resilience, economic mobility, and health and housing. So applicants may apply for funding under any program area, but of course we will start talking about Chicago's 3 program priorities very shortly. Full descriptions of all these programs are given in the LOI, along with examples of activities for each program. And I also want to point out that we realize that applications may address more than one program area, but you will need to select only one program area that most closely aligns with your proposed activities or projects. So applications that overlap multiple program areas will not receive a scoring advantage. So you should know that. Okay, so quickly, let's go through some requirements and general information about this funding round and the application process. And to reiterate, you can get the full information packed overview by watching Tuesday's recorded national webinar, which is going to be posted on our website's grants page. So applicants must meet the eligibility requirements, which are described in Appendix A of the LOI. HUD requires that an applicant be a CDC or CHOTO nonprofit organization, and that the proposed activities, programs, projects, however you would like to refer to what you're planning to do, that they directly build the capacity of your nonprofit organization. In addition, enterprise requires that your organization can demonstrate sufficient staff capacity to carry out the grant activities. HUD recently gave us guidance about the eligibility of membership organizations seeking to receive Section 4 grants. And they've given enterprise a much stricter definition of membership groups. So if you happen to fall into this category, we ask that you please contact the grants team, including myself, through the RFP mailbox address, which is rfp@enterprisecommunity.org. And we'll be able to gather more information and additional documents if needed, and we'll need to review these on a case-by-case basis. So if any of you are unsure about your organization's eligibility, please, just in an overall sense, please email the RFP mailbox. This way we can get more information, and again, we can request additional documents like bylaws or articles of incorporation, and then we'll be able to provide appropriate guidance and make a determination. But please don't be shy about contacting us with eligibility questions or any questions that arise while you're preparing your proposal, and we're really quick to respond. In almost all cases, we'll respond that same day. So this funding opportunity consists of a two-stage application process, the letters of interest stage, which we're obviously in now, and the full proposal stage, which is by invitation only. So Chloe will have some more information and dates about those in just a bit. But overall, the final award notifications are scheduled to be sent out in mid-October via email, and then, of course, shortly after that, the grant preparation will begin. Like last year, we will be using the cloud-based slide room program to accept all applications, and you'll be able to access that online portal through the grants webpage. All applicants will need a slide room account, so if you don't already have one, you can register for one very easily. Just see Appendix C of the LOI for instructions. And as mentioned earlier, applicants must apply under just one of the 5 program areas. Even if your proposal speaks to multiple program areas, we ask that you just pick one area that most closely aligns. If your organization has active awards or perhaps has a pending application with other Section 4 intermediaries, and there's only 3 groups and the other 2 are LISC and Habitat for Humanity International, you can still apply to our LOI, but you cannot request funding for the same cost. And okay, so now we're going to, I'm going to pass the presenter ball over to Chloe.
Good morning, everyone. As Rosa mentioned before, I am the year-long planning intern here at Enterprise. And I'm going to be going over our Chicago market core values, our programmatic priorities, as well as the application timeline and some reminders. At the forefront of the work that the Chicago market does and the work that we aim to support really revolves around these 4 core values, them being racial equity, collaboration, community engagement, and transit orientation. In terms of this year's proposals, we are looking for projects that have both an emphasis on racial equity and transit orientation. So as I go through the program areas next, just keep this in mind. So as Diane had mentioned earlier, there are 5 program areas. As a Chicago market, we decided to prioritize 3 program areas. being Program Area 1, Housing Stability, Program Area 3, Equitable Climate Resilience, Program Area 5, Health and Housing. We do want to note that we will be accepting applications for Program Area 2, which is Organizational Capacity Building, and Program Area 4, which is Economic Mobility. But as I mentioned before, we will be giving priority to the 3 listed here.
I also note that one of the questions that was presented on the Q&A is relevant to this slide, which is, are these in particular order in terms of priority? And they are not. We just wanted to note that we're being consistent with the areas that are in the full LOI, which are numbered in no particular order, areas 1, area 3, and area 5. But we are equally interested in those 3 areas as our priorities. So thank you for that question, and hopefully this is helpful.
Great. I'm now going to go into the specifics of each program, and please note that as I go through the examples mentioned, this list is not exhaustive. They're just here to kind of give you guidance in terms of the work that can be done. So in terms of housing stability, the goal of this category is really to protect current residents from displacement and to stabilize neighborhoods undergoing gentrification or significant disinvestment. We are particularly interested in preserving affordable homes and supporting affordable new construction development, especially particularly around transit hubs, which kind of goes back to one of our core ideas of transit orientation. Some examples of this could be the preservation of existing rental buildings, the preservation of housing in high-demand neighborhoods, or new affordable construction in areas with significant disinvestment.
And these are all pre-development examples. So, for example, it's not that construction itself is not an eligible use, but pre-development that will lead to new construction development is definitely part of eligible cost.
Next, going into Program Area 3, which is Equitable Climate Resilience. The goal of this category is to create sustainable communities, whether this be through improvements to existing real estate portfolios, new real estate developments, and through community level initiatives. So this, we kind of have broken down this list of examples, but looking at energy efficiency, it can be projects that focus on conducting energy efficiency. It can be stuff on staff training for energy conservation, the maintenance of HVAC systems, or just implementing best practices for conservation or even community solar initiatives. In terms of water efficiency, projects may focus on conducting water efficiency assessments. That also, again, can be staff training, the implementation of water conservation, doing gray water reuse, or other strategies that can reduce water use in buildings. In terms of stormwater management, that could be rain gardens, green infrastructure, and building modifications, and then kind of this overarching concept of green design, so looking at the design for buildings and rehabs and the improvement of existing buildings. Again, we have some more examples in terms of this program area, looking at renewable energy, neighborhood scale green infrastructure, or even urban agriculture. For Program Area 5, which is health and housing, the goal of this category is really to improve the health and safety in affordable homes and their surrounding communities. And we do want to note that it is important that when we look at housing, we are also considering the built environment around those affordable homes. So examples of this could be the testing and remediation of affordable housing, whether that be mold, lead, or indoor air environmental assessments or remediation, the design of these affordable housing, so healthy design initiatives, health impact assessments, or walkability assessments. We also are looking for organizations that have partnership with health institutions and that are really working around mental health and trauma services that can be provided to residents in affordable housing units. So in terms of where we are really focusing on, we are looking at the Chicago metropolitan area with Cook, DuPage, Kane, Kendall, Lake, McHenry, and Will counties being included in the geography priority areas that we have laid out. So in terms of the amount of grants that we anticipate giving out, we approximately think that we will have about 10 to 12 grants to give out with approximate range of $35,000 to $45,000 per grant. We do want to note that these grant numbers are based on the quality of the proposals that we receive, so these numbers that are mentioned above may change. Just a goal for our Chicago market is that we want the period of performance to begin when our grant agreement is executed, and for the project ideally to be implemented within a year. We do understand that special accommodations may need to be made in order to kind of maximize our impact and our outcomes. So just some key points to note in terms of working on your application. We are looking for proposals that really have a clear, realistic goals that are outlined and that are delegate funds for staff and third-party consultants. Something that's really important to note is that our Section 4 grants must be used for eligible activities and costs. So please refer to Appendix B of the LOI to look at that list. And if there are any questions after consulting that list, please email that RFP email that Diane mentioned before. So important dates to keep note of. So the submission deadline for these applications are Monday, July 15th, and those are due at 10:59 Chicago time. Please note that on, I believe, the general website, it does look at Eastern Standard Time, which, as we know, differs from the time here in Chicago, so just keep note of that. Notice of invitations, if invited by Enterprise, will go out Thursday, August 8th, 2019, and then submission for full deadline proposals, if invited, will be Monday, September 9th, 2019. Some reminders that Diane kind of touched upon before is that only one application can be submitted. You can only choose one of the 5 program areas mentioned. We can only consider applications that were submitted via slide room, that were submitted on time via slide room, and that have met all of the eligibility requirements. Please note that once the application has been submitted, no changes can be made to that application. And as I said before, we cannot accept late submissions, hard copies, or applications submitted outside of slide room. We strongly recommend that you submit your application in slide room a day or two before July 15th in case you run into any unanticipated issues. If you do happen to run into any issues, please reach out to that RFP email. There will be a large amount of applications being put in, so kind of to create less traffic and less issues in terms of your application, please try to do things in advance. And if you run into any problems, please contact that RFP email.
We also want to encourage you to do that because I think it'll make the experience so much more nicer and pleasant rather than a bit more stressful, which we know that's always the case when you're trying to submit it all the way at the last minute. I'm guilty of it myself, so I'm speaking from personal experience. So just, be nice to yourself, be kind to yourself, submit it early on. The other thing that we want to encourage is that you can work on the application early on and then just save it, and you can always edit it, modify it, but once you submit it, that's when you can't make changes. So we encourage you to get familiar with the document. I anticipate that there are ways for you to do that, and then submit once you're fully ready, because there aren't ways of modifying it once it's submitted. The other helpful tool on that, sometimes if for whatever reason you can't save it, you can always download it, work on that document on a separate, on a separate type of tool, so whether that be on Word or other tools, and then just copy and paste when you're ready. Many of you that have done this before know all the tricks of the trade, but for others that may not have done this before, feel free to work on it on a separate document in your computer, and then that's usually a helpful tool when you have it all ready, when you're comfortable with everything that you've included, when you've answered all the questions on your own document. Literally just open up the site, put in all your information, do a final review, and then submit it.
And as Rosa mentioned, in SlideRoom, you are able, once you create an account, you are able to download those questions before beginning the application, so you can be aware of what it is, what information you need, and as Rosa said, to work on another document. So in terms of resources, the ones highlighted in green are really going to be your main points of resources for this first phase, but we decided to include some other links that may be of use for your application. But again, the ones highlighted in green are going to be the ones that you will need in this first phase of the application process. And now I'm going to pass it off back to Rosa.
So that really concludes the broader overview of the LOI for the Chicago market. We wanted to keep it as simple and straightforward for you, so you can get familiar with it, understand it. Hopefully, we made it as straightforward as we could for you. We know that there will be questions, so we're here for you. But before we went on to full open questions, I did want to note a couple of, two particular events that we have coming up that we invite you to participate in. One is the Undesign the Red Line. It's an interactive exhibit. It is going to be on display July 7th through August 2nd at the Harris Theater in Chicago. It is an excellent and very educational, it's not just a document, it's an experience and an exhibit that you can interact with and be able to learn a little bit more about the history of redlining, both what has happened from the beginning in terms of how redlining became a practice, and then other efforts that have been done to sort of challenge the impact of redlining. So it's a really good balance of all the great things that are redline related. Again, this is not the train line for all of us that are Chicagoans. This is really about redlining itself. The other event that we want to encourage everyone to come to is Elevate Energy. We're having a community solar workshop with Elevate Energy. This community solar workshop, we really look at examples, ideas, brainstorming suggestions on where and how we can put together community solar projects, and those projects have really powerful benefits to community residents in those areas. So we want to explore those options with you. That will be taking place July 23rd from 1 to 4 p.m. And it'll be here in our offices at Enterprise Community Partners at 230 West Monroe. And we've included the email address where you can just send a quick email saying you're interested in attending the event, and then we will follow up with you. So hopefully you can join us. So with that said, thank you for the question that we received from Russ already. As we mentioned, we answered it in terms of, is there a priority on the ones that are listed? They are not listed in an order of priority. They are equally important to, the three areas are equally important for the Chicago market. If you have more questions, please write them down on the Q&A. Otherwise, we're going to open up the lines in just a minute and then have others ask questions. In general, we want to remind you that you can always ask questions, general questions and specific questions, to our rfp@enterprisecommunitypartners.org email address. Those questions could be anything regarding eligibility, priorities or areas or things, initiatives that you want to ask if they're eligible or not, or any other questions in general that you might have. For questions that are specific to the Chicago market, please reach out to me. My email is on there, rortiz@enterprisecommunity.org. And then Chloe Nunez as well, cnunez@enterprisecommunity.org. We're more than happy and available to follow up with any questions that you might have. So we have another question. Thank you, Margaret. The question from Margaret is, would you be able to clarify CDC eligibility? This was discussed a bit in the national webinar. And so we're looking to review the eligibility criteria and specifics on that. So really, Diane, do you want to take this?
Sure, no problem. So by saying that you reviewed the criteria but are unclear, I'm assuming what you went through was the Appendix A, which is the HUD-defined definition of CDC. It can be a little nebulous, so what I would like you to do is contact the RFP mailbox and give us more information about perhaps which parts of that are unclear, because I'm not able to go through all. I think there's like 8 points. So, but we can help you on a situational, one-to-one basis, based on your organizational framework or setup. I know it can be kind of tricky at times.
Yeah, so I'll elaborate a little bit more on that. Basically, you send an email to the RFP at enterprisecommunity.org. Give them your name, what organization you are with. Perhaps if you have a website, that would be one other thing that would be helpful. And then the other thing that we look for is that community development organization, or CHODO, CHODO specifically do housing work, but if you're a general community development organization or a general nonprofit organization, our team will be happy to review bylaws or other information, and they can follow up with you on providing those documents so that you can confirm ahead of time that you are an eligible organization. Again, if you're a nonprofit doing housing work, odds are you will likely be eligible. But to confirm, feel free to just, do a specific outreach to us, and we will double check the information with you.
Mm-hmm. Perfect, Rosa. Thank you.
Yeah. Tag team, Diane. So another question that has come up from Ruth, is it a goal of the Chicago market to give 1 grant per listed community? Example, Cook, Will, and so on. That is a great question. Thank you for asking that. We don't necessarily have a goal to provide a grant in each of the different areas that are a priority in terms of the geography. In that case, we really are just looking for the best applications in that entire geography, and those applications that, again, have clear priorities, have clear goals, have clear outcomes. Those applications will be prioritized. We're not necessarily saying 1 per area. Again, that's by geography. We will be looking for projects that are in the program area priority, so we will be looking to fund applications that are in health and housing. We will be looking to fund applications around resiliency, sustainability, and housing stability. So those we will be very intentional on funding all 3 of those, regardless of geography. Are there other questions? And Diane, can you confirm that we can unmute other people that are on the phone, and we can try to see if that is an option for everyone. I know some people might be listening to this webinar and not be able to ask questions on the computer, and that's totally fine. We're going to give it a shot to see if you can just ask over the phone, and we'll be happy to answer.
Okay, so I'm going to unmute all callers. Please mute locally if you can, and please feel free to unmute and ask a question if you can. We'll try to take them in the most orderly way possible. So here we go.
But they also want to expand the support model. And
hi, everyone.
Okay.
Everyone has been unmuted.
Mute locally.
I guess I'm just wondering, like, how we factor into that, you know?
Hi,
like,
everyone.
Are they just going to build in OZs? Oh,
okay. We're going to give everyone another half a second. If you have a question, please ask. Everyone has been unmuted. Are there any questions over the phone? No.
I think we're
okay.
I think we're okay. Yeah, it's
totally fine.
It is a little hard sometimes, but
yeah, that's fine. I'd rather give people the option, and if no one has any questions over the phone, then that's totally fine. Did any other ones come up? Okay. Well, then that concludes then our webinar. We're happy to give you a few more minutes back to your day. And again, we're more than available and accessible in terms of being able and interested in answering all of the questions that you might have. The clearer they are, the better we can answer them. So please be thoughtful on, you know, kind of what you're interested in and us supporting you with. And any questions can be sent to our RFP at enterprisecommunity.org or to myself or Chloe. Diane, I can't thank you enough for being part of our team. Thank you for all of the work that you do in partnership with the Chicago market. And to everyone, we wish you all a wonderful and warm day here in Chicago. Enjoy it. And we're here to support you. Please don't forget the dates for our deadline is coming up. If you get a chance, please start working on your application as soon as possible. And we're here to support you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.